Bilingualism and multilingualism are two important concepts which have been discussed quite thoroughly in the contemporary sociolinguistics. Modern world very much is a bi or multilingual world. We could see that there are about 7,000 languages which are spoken across 200 nations. So if we just calculate it mathematically, you would see that there are more chances that most of the nations in the world would be multilingual. Most communities are multilingual for the need of communication. And this is what could be understood if we just have a look at the distribution of these languages across the world. Approximately half of the world's population is multilingual, or they are native speakers of more than one languages. They do have native-like proficiency in more than one language, which makes which proves the claim that this world is, to a large extent, is a multilingual world. Therefore, in many parts of Asia and Africa, multilingualism is a norm. If we just look at Pakistani society, in various areas of Pakistani society, people speak their local language, a national language, and then especially educated people also speak or use English language as well. So most of educated Pakistanis, they are multilinguals. The use of terms bilingual or multilingual have been controversial, or there have been variations in their use throughout the history of sociolinguistics. In today's terminologies, we use bilingualism most of the times for individuals. Even if they are trilingual or quadrilingual, we use the term bilingual for individual. Tradgill defines it, the ability of an individual to speak two or more languages. So bilingual may be used for an individual even if he speaks more than two languages. So we are not confined to the literal meaning of word bi, which is two. So people speaking more than two could be considered bilinguals. Van Ryck also defines it the practice of alternately using two languages. Grosjean is of the view that the use of two or more languages in one's everyday life, and it's not important that one is equally proficient in both languages. So he also indicates that it implies the use of more than two languages. Multilingualism is usually used for nations where, for example, we use the term multilingual societies, and where there are more than one languages spoken or used for various social functions. A sociolinguistic situation in which more than one language is involved. So it could be also related to a certain linguistic situation where there is an interplay of more than one languages. Bilingual competence is a very difficult concept to be measured mathematically or defined clearly, because it's very hard to say that at which stage a certain learner or speaker becomes proficient enough to be called a competent speaker of another language and therefore bilingual. So overall, people have different views about it. For example, Bloomfield is of the view that native-like proficiency should be the criterion. If somebody is a native-like proficient in another language, then only then he should be considered a bilingual. However, some people argue that mere ability to communicate is enough to consider somebody a bilingual. He may not be as good as he or she is in his or her native language, but he could perform better in all four important language skills. He may be considered a bilingual. There are various kinds of bilingualism. For example, simultaneous bilingualism. Simultaneous bilingualism involves the learning or acquisition of two languages at the same time. And this may happen when a child is born in a family where both parents speak different languages, and they do speak that in their daily conversation. So child would automatically learn both languages as his or her native languages. However, this has been observed that one language would still dominate the other in the performance of various socially linguistic functions. We do have additive bilingualism. In such bilingualism, a person acquires another language without compromising on his native language. By that I mean that his own native or local language or its use is not affected when he learns another language. So this becomes additive. This becomes a good addition to his overall linguistic repertoire. However, in contrast, subtractive bilingualism is the one when a person is compelled to learn another language and its norms in a way that his or her own native language and its use is affected. And he may psychologically or socially start considering his or her own language inferior to the language he is learning. So that's why we may call such bilingualism as subtractive bilingualism, where the speaker's or learner's own language is compromised at the cost of some prestigious language which he or she is learning. There are many benefits of bilingualism as well. For example, it enhances one's linguistic skills for communication. By learning more languages, people are able to communicate with a variety of people and in a variety of regions. So it's a natural outcome of bilingualism that people's ability to communicate is enhanced. It also has cognitive advantage because it enhances people's problem-solving, analytical skills, as well as their abilities for logical reasoning and social interaction. So a bilingual speaker or user is considered to be socially more active and logically more reasonable by many researchers. It also has cultural advantage because bilingualism makes one's or enhances one's cultural understanding of various things, and sometimes it may make people culturally more sensitive, because when we learn a language, we also know about its culture. So we get more knowledge about various cultures. Therefore, we may become more sensitive culturally. It do have personal advantage for the learner as well, or the user, because learning a new language may raises one's creativity, self-esteem, and interpersonal skills, which would benefit him not only in his social life but also in his academic and professional life.